Walking upstairs to give my dad a goodnight kiss before going to bed when suddenly I heard a loud crash from his room. Oh my god, Dad! I can't show you what happened because it's too much for YouTube, but I can tell you that the last words my dad said were, the attic, before he fell into a coma. Hi, I'm Miley, and I live in Finland. I'm sure everyone will learn something from my story. That's why I decided to share it on this channel. I felt the world crashing down around me. Ever since Mom and my older siblings had left, Dad was the only family I'd had. I knew they hated him, but I had to tell them about this. After all, he was their dad too. I called Katie and she seemed too busy screaming at her loser boyfriend to even pay attention and just hung up. I tried Bree next, and she said she was really busy at work and I had to deal with this myself. These girls were just heartless. I called my brother Ed next. He wasn't too happy to hear from me. What? Wow, no hello. Dad's in a coma and Yeah, I know why you're calling. I don't care about him. And don't even think about asking me for money. With that, he hung up. I just stared at the phone. What had just happened? I was on my own. No wonder Dad disowned them. Just then, the doctor came in and told me how expensive it would be to keep Dad at the hospital, and I needed to come up with the money very soon. Later that evening, as I was going through his stuff, I suddenly remembered Dad's last words, and I rushed up to the attic. I opened a box with Dad's stuff in it. There was a document in there with instructions for me. I had to meet a guy called Eric and use the secret word green apple. I quickly called the number it said and agreed to meet him the following day. I couldn't wait for school to be over the next day so I could meet this Eric guy and figure out what the big secret was. I was so lost in my thoughts I didn't even see Chris when he sat next to me. Thinking about me, are you? You wish. I'm so sorry about your dad. If you need anything at all, you let me know. I'd do anything for a beautiful girl like you. I smiled and nodded. Chris and I had grown up together, but lately I was getting butterflies every time I saw him. Oh, snap out of it, Miley. As soon as the bell rang, I was out the door. Eric had told me to wait for him on the park bench beneath a big tree. I felt like a secret agent as I waited for him. After a while, some guy came over and sat next to me. I jumped when he spoke to me. What's your favorite fruit? Was this guy crazy? Oh, wait. Green apple? The guy took off his cap and introduced himself as Eric. Okay, he was definitely not what I was expecting. I was expecting an old guy with wrinkles, but this guy was babelicious. I was already picturing our wedding. I just wanted to make sure. Oh, I'm sure. What? I'm sure you wanted to be sure. Why couldn't my brain and tongue work together? Yeah, anyway, your dad's 28 million is all yours. It'll take a few days to sort out, okay? What? $28 million? He must think I'm slow or something. Yeah, sure. You might want to have an adult with you to sort this out as you're under 18. I ran off after the meeting, still reeling with shock. This was too much to handle. I couldn't think of anyone else, so I texted Ed. Of course, he didn't reply. In the evening, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I was shocked to see Ed with his wife and kids. And so many suitcases? What are you doing here? Come on, little sis. Did you really think I'd leave you alone to deal with this? Now be a doll and set up a room for us. Ed's wife and kids just went on in and made themselves right at home. A little while later, the doorbell rang again. I ran downstairs, and to my surprise, Bree, my older sister, walked in, dumping her bags in the doorway. You can take these up, right? Thanks. Bree worked for a fashion magazine and could easily be on the cover of one, but she was so rude and stuck up, we'd never gotten along. She hugged Ed and gave air kisses to his wife and kids. Oh, aren't you guys cute? No, hey, don't touch my bag. That cost more than your parents' car. She said she was really tired and had to get her 10 hours of beauty sleep, so she went straight up and set up camp in my room. Bree, this is my room. Go and sleep in the guest room. It used to be my room, and it gets the best sunlight. I gotta do my yoga early in the morning. Now get out. I grabbed my stuff and slammed at the door. I was halfway down the stairs when Bree started screaming. When I opened the door, I couldn't stop laughing. Get this monster away from me! Relax, Bree. Meet Tiny. He's my pet. Bree grabbed her blanket and rushed out of the room. I gave Tiny an extra treat for getting rid of that evil witch. The next morning, as I was about to get ready, the little devils pushed their way into the bathroom and ran off with a toothpaste. As I ran after them, I felt like something had stabbed me in the foot. Damn these Legos. I hobbled to my room and quickly ran out of the house to get away from all the madness. I told Chris about how my siblings had shown up and how annoying they were. Don't worry, babe, I'll come over and help you. Right now, I just needed help staying awake in class. I'd barely slept the night before. I just felt so overwhelmed. The day flew by and I sleepwalked through most of it. As I was walking home, I saw Eric outside a coffee shop. My heart skipped a beat as I saw him. I didn't want him to think I was stalking him, but just as I was about to walk away, he waved to me. Hey, I've been waiting for you to call me. Was I being pranked? Eric had been expecting me to call? Have you decided about what you want to do with the money? Yeah, we're still figuring it out. He asked me to join him for coffee. I had no idea what he was talking about. I was lost in his beautiful eyes. I was so happy when he offered to walk me home because I could listen to this guy's voice forever. When we got home and he turned to say goodnight, he suddenly leaned in towards me. Oh my God, was he about to kiss me? I closed my eyes and suddenly felt him rub my cheek. Got it. There was something on your face. Good night. And he just left. Man, I was so disappointed. As I opened the door, I tripped and fell. 𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗬𝗘𝗦, my other sister. She was very gangster. Was that a new tattoo on her arm? As I stood up, I saw she was very pregnant. Where's your stupid boyfriend? We split up because he decided he can't be a daddy, and I don't have the money to have this baby alone. I should have known. Only money could have brought all of them here. As I walked into the lounge, I was horrified. I looked at Ed's wife, thinking she'd stop them, but no. I told her to make them behave, but she just shrugged and kept filing her nails. I hope she breaks her nails, the airhead. Suddenly there was a loud crash, and I saw in horror that the younger idiot had knocked over the angel ornament Dad had given to me. I was furious and devastated. Chris! I was so grateful to see him heading towards the back door, and I went running to the kitchen. I broke down in front of him. He put his arms around me and hugged me. I could hear his heartbeat. I looked up at him and I could tell he wanted to kiss me. Just as he leaned in, someone pushed us apart. I swear I wanted to kill these idiots. 𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗬𝗘𝗦 walked into the kitchen. Looking for a new baby daddy, are you? What if I am? I felt a pang of anger and jealousy. Chris was mine and she couldn't have him. I needed to get away from these psychos. I went to see Dad. It broke my heart to see him like this. Please wake up, Dad. Things are really hard. I can't do this without you. The next couple of days were hell. I was in over my head. The only silver lining to my gloomy days was Eric's texts. He'd been checking on me regularly. What a sweetheart. The next day, Chris picked me up for school. As I sat in the car, he handed me a rose and asked me to be his date for the spring fling dance. I know there's a lot going on right now, but I thought this would take your mind off it for a while. I didn't see that coming. I hadn't told him about Eric, but I just couldn't bring myself to say no to him. He was so sweet. At lunch, I was surprised to see a huge group of guys and cheerleaders gathered at a table. I had no idea what was going on over there, but then I caught sight of her stupid blonde curls. Bree! She was sitting in the middle, and of course, all the boys were drooling over her. Wasn't it enough having to deal with her at home? What are you doing here? You dropped out of high school a long time ago, remember? She just looked at me as if she didn't know me and said, "Leave me alone." That evening, I confronted all of them and asked them to leave. I'd had enough. Ed stood up and I saw the rage on his face. You really think we'll leave without the money? You took Dad, this house, and now you want the money too. You're so greedy. I hope he never wakes up and we never have to see him again. Just give us the money. If you and your mom had stayed out of our lives, we'd still be with Dad. What are you talking about? Dad was just a selfish man who only cared about himself and kept having affairs with other women. Dad took you in when your mom went away. Our mom couldn't deal with seeing you every day. Neither could we. This wasn't true. My dad wasn't like that, and my mom was their mom. This was too much for me to process. I needed fresh air, and I ran out of the house. I bumped into someone. I was about to fall back, but a pair of strong arms grabbed me. Eric! Hey, what's wrong, 𝗲𝗠? I just fell into his arms and sobbed. I was devastated. I told him I didn't know who I could trust anymore. My whole life had just been turned upside down. He looked me in the eye and softly said, 𝗲𝗠, you can trust me. With that, he kissed me. Oh my God, this was so much better than I had imagined. 𝗲𝗠, I quickly turned around. Chris. He looked at me with pain and disappointment. Chris, but he just turned and walked away. I felt guilty and wanted to run after him, but Eric asked me out for dinner and I excitedly said yes. He kissed my forehead and left. As I entered the kitchen, I froze. Bree and 𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗬𝗘𝗦 were busy cutting me out of the pictures and the frames. Bree whispered something to 𝗘𝗑𝗦 and they started laughing. I knew Bree was evil, but they were crossing the line. Ed walked in. You think you're super smart, don't you? Trying to woo the money man and keep us from getting our share? I erupted. I was so angry at how they kept blaming me. I didn't even know any of this, and I wasn't responsible for what Dad did, but you're a constant reminder of it, you selfish girl. I stormed off to my room to try and relax. I got up super early over the weekend and snuck out. With the bombs they dropped on me, I needed to clear my head. I went on the swings like I used to do with Dad. Oh, Dad, I miss you so much. I had to grab onto the chains as someone started to gently push me. Chris! Hey, Chris. You just ran off yesterday. Sometimes, 𝗲𝗠, you're so dumb for a smart girl. I was in no mood for riddles. What do you mean? I care about you, Miles, and I just want to make sure you're okay. Eric isn't a nice guy. But I don't know who to trust except Eric. You do know he's just with you for the money. You're so jealous. I didn't need to stand there and listen to another person telling me what to do. When I got home, everyone was in a frenzy and Katie was screaming. Ed's kids were dancing around shouting, "And Katie's gonna have a baby!" I wanted to go with them to the hospital, but they left me to babysit the kids. Just perfect. I knew it would be a while before everyone got back, so I asked Eric to come over. I quickly changed into something nice and cleaned up the place as much as I could. There was a knock on the door and I rushed to open it. Chris? Why was he everywhere? What are you doing here? I wanted to apologize for this morning. Where is everyone? I told him they'd gone to the hospital with Katie. I don't know which part he thought was an invitation because he just walked straight in and started playing with the kids. They seemed to like him and did as he said. I was kind of glad he was there. Ding dong. Oh shoot, how would I explain everything? I opened the door. Eric looked charming. As we walked into the lounge, Chris and Eric just glared at each other. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Why'd you call me if he was already here? He just showed up. You could have sent him away. Anyway, I have a surprise for you. He told me he had the money and I could pick it up from him tomorrow. Chris was a natural with the kids, but I noticed Derek kept giving them dirty looks and tensing up every time a kid got close to him. I spent the most awkward evening with the two of them. Before Chris left, he warned me about Eric again, and they both left. The next morning, everyone returned with Katie's newborn. He was so tiny and cute. Everyone was so happy for once. If someone saw us, they'd think we were one big happy family. Suddenly, I saw Eric walking up to the front door. I stepped outside to meet him. "You're glowing today. Look how happy everyone is." I turned to him and said that I was thinking of sharing the money with everyone. I was shocked to see Eric suddenly get angry. "Babe, you can't be serious. Why would you give those vultures anything? You should keep it for yourself." Chris's words rang in my ear. Just then, I got a call from the hospital. My heart stopped. As I hung up, I told him Dad was awake and I needed to go. I went in and told everyone that Dad was awake. Surprisingly, they all decided to come with me. Yes, all of us. He was shocked to see everyone there. Seeing you all together again has made me realize how much I missed this. I'm sorry I hurt you. All of you. He turned to Katie and held out his hands. I had never seen Dad so emotional. It was a classic Hallmark moment. He went on to tell us how he had savings and he wanted to include everyone as his heir. Silence took over. You could probably hear a pin drop. No one objected to splitting the money between us and everyone was happy about it. I think that my dad waking up from a coma and seeing Katie's baby gave us the old feeling of being a family again. I told Dad how I'd gone to the attic and contacted Eric like he said, and that he was giving me the money tomorrow. Dad's blood pressure shot up. He said he'd found out before the coma that Eric was cheating him out of his business. Me and Ed decided to go see Eric before it was too late. He wasn't too happy to see us, but quietly handed over the money. "You were only with me because of the money, weren't you?" I hoped he would deny it, but he just lowered his eyes. I was heartbroken. The next day, we brought Dad home. As we entered the driveway, there he was again, Chris. Bree winked at me and said she'd help Dad inside. I ran to Chris and jumped into his arms. "What? Yeah, you were right. Now just shut up and kiss me, you fool." And we had the most magical kiss anyone can imagine. Aunt Miley is having a baby.
One day, my oldest brother Derek was walking me and my twin brother Ryan home from kindergarten when a masked man leaned out of a car and grabbed me as he drove by. I screamed at the top of my lungs, and before I knew it, the police were following us and it was a high-speed chase. The masked man accidentally slid off the road and crashed the car into a tree. The last thing I remember before being reunited with my brothers was seeing him knocked out with his mask off. He was staring at me angrily. "Hi, my name is Maggie, and I'm about to tell you why I can't watch Pirates of the Caribbean." I found out about my problem straight away at the hospital. Dad said, "Baby, are you okay?" The nurses looked shocked as I screamed at the top of my lungs. Monster! They thought I was traumatized, but the psychologist had another diagnosis. Turns out I had something called pogonophobia. It means a fear of beards. I know it sounds stupid and funny, but I promise it's a real disease that nearly ruined my life. I couldn't even look at someone with a stubble without throwing a fit. I broke the TV during an episode of SpongeBob because a character with a beard scared me. Even normal things like shopping were a nightmare. My parents took me to a grocery store once, and I got so scared by a cereal box with a bearded man on it, I knocked over the whole display and made a huge mess. It was a lot of stress for my parents. In fact, I overheard them talking to my brothers about me one day. Mom said, "She's crazy!" Dad said, "I know. We need to send her somewhere else. I can't handle her anymore." I burst in on the family meeting, crying hysterically, and my parents looked uncomfortable. They said that I could come back when I was fixed. That's when my second brother Joe came in. "Family sticks together. Either you keep Maggie or you lose all of us." Derek and Ryan stood by his side, and my parents shot each other an awkward look. And then they packed their bags and just left. Since then, Derek and Joe kind of became our parents. They had tea parties with me, took care of all the chores, and most importantly, defended me because of my condition. Derek was dropping me and Ryan off on our first day of school when I saw my bearded teacher and had a meltdown. Ryan said, "Didn't you get the memo about BEARDS?" My teacher replied, "Wait, that was serious? I don't have time for this." Derek said, "Oh, we are very serious when it comes to our beautiful sister." He handed the teacher a razor and told him he would watch the class while he did his job. Derek was kind of intimidating, so the annoyed teacher turned white and ran to the bathroom to shave. I have to say, I'm pretty lucky to have the brothers I have. Later that year, when Ryan and I went to the school's Christmas party, I cried when I saw the Santa banners everywhere. I hid under a desk and covered my eyes. Everyone in class laughed at me, except Ryan. Ryan said, "You can open your eyes now." I said, "I can't, I'm scared." He said, "Trust me." When I looked around, I saw that he'd cut the beards off of all the Santa decorations. I was so happy, but everyone thought I was weird because of my fits. I didn't need friends though. I had my older brothers and Ryan. They were more than enough for me. One day though, I found out I wasn't enough anymore. It was our last week of middle school and Ryan decided to go on an overnight trip. I said, "But we never go on overnight trips." He said, "Well, maybe we can start. Don't you want to make friends?" I said, "No, we don't want anyone else." It turned out I didn't want anyone else. Ryan tried so hard to convince me to go, but I refused. Finally, he said he didn't want to miss out on things because of me. He tried to assure that nothing was changing between us. He said, "I'll just be gone a week. You won't even notice I'm gone. I have news for you. When we're in middle school, things change overnight." The next week, Ryan came back from the trip with a little bit of stubble. My other brothers shot him daggers as I started to sob in the corner. I asked, "What's that on your face?" He said, "I thought I'd try something new." Without even asking me? I ran upstairs and locked myself in the bathroom. Ryan came to the door and tried to explain that he wasn't trying to hurt my feelings. But this girl he had a huge crush on said she loved facial hair. I hadn't had an incident in so long. He thought I'd grown out of it. I didn't want to mess up his chances with his crush, so I agreed to try it out. My brothers were so proud I was doing well. They thought I was cured. In reality, I was purposely looking away all the time, and it was eating me up inside. One time, I was trying so hard not to look at Ryan that I fell down the stairs. See, as time passed and his stubble grew into a real beard, it was getting harder and harder to deal with my feelings. The day Ryan told me that he and his crush were finally going out, I broke down and begged him to shave it. He said, but she really likes my beard." I said, "You're already dating." He asked, "What if she doesn't find me attractive anymore?" I asked, "Is that more important than your own twin sister?" After a day of guilt tripping and a little convincing from Joe and Derek, Ryan walked into my room the next day, beard free. I ran up and hugged him. I was so happy. The next day, Ryan seemed really upset, but wouldn't say why. Joe decided to take us out to the new pizza place to try to cheer him up. Ryan asked, "Can Maggie even handle going there?" I said, "Sure I can." I tried with all my might to stay calm. Even when the restaurant was filled with bearded people, I could only do so much though. Then the waiter showed up and said, "Large pepperoni pizza for table 8. Ah! I screamed and knocked the pizza out of the bearded waiter's hands and splattered sauce all over Joe and Ryan. Ryan said, "I told you this was a bad idea." I said, I'm really sorry. I just wanted to cheer you up." He said, "Do you even know why I'm upset?" It turned out that his girlfriend had broken up with him the night before. When she heard he shaved his beard for me, she got mad that he did whatever his sister asked. He told me that I'd ruined everything. He wished I was normal. As he left, I started to cry. I wish I was normal too. Joe tried to tell me that it was okay. Ryan would get over it. He was just sensitive because of the breakup. Joe said, "It'll all be better in the morning." It wasn't. Ryan ignored me at school the next day. I nearly cried when I went to sit next to him and he told me the seat was taken. I ate lunch alone for a couple of days, till this really cute guy sat down next to me with 2 cookies, handing me one. He said, "Pretty girls like you shouldn't be sitting alone. Hi, my name's Matthew." A boy sitting next to me was sure to catch Ryan's attention. He was angry the whole time before coming up to us. Ryan said, "Is this guy bothering you, sis?" I said, "Oh, now you're talking to me? I was just upset. I'm sorry. Don't worry. Nothing could ever come between us." He was looking right at Matthew when he said that. He then sat down next to Matthew, took out his notebook, and started firing questions at him. Ryan said, "Are you serious about my sister? Have you ever had a beard? How often do you shave?" Matthew turned red and nearly fell out of his chair, saying we just met. I was ready to kill Ryan when we were all saved by the bell. Later after school, I caught up with Matthew and said I was sorry for Ryan's behavior. Matthew said, Don't worry. I get it. He's your brother. I am serious about asking you out though." I totally wasn't expecting that. And of course I said yes. I immediately texted my brothers asking if it was okay, and they surprisingly agreed to a movie date and said they would pick us up. The car ride was really uncomfortable. Joe was the driver, Derek was looking as scary as ever in the front, and Ryan sat between us in the back seat. I couldn't wait to get to the date when the biggest surprise ever happened. Why are we parking at the house? Derek turned to me and said,
For your date, of course, silly.
Poor Matthew had no idea what kind of date he was in for. I walked into the lounge with popcorn to see Derek grilling Matthew. You'd think he was a murder suspect being questioned by the police. Are you planning to grow a beard? What does your beard mean to you? Do you consider it a sign of your manhood? If you were with Maggie and a bearded man came over, what would you do? You have only 3 attempts to answer that. Go. I said, Oh my God, leave him alone, Joe! Matthew, let's pick a movie? Just then, Ryan walked in and said,
Yeah, what are we watching?
My brothers decided we were all watching a movie. Matthew wanted to watch a romantic movie, but Derek picked Frozen. I said, Guys, we aren't 5. Can we watch something less lame? Ryan said, What are you talking about? It's epic. You know, when Anna and Elsa reunite. Aww. Then Joe said to Matthew,
Hey, can you make some room?
Derek said,
Yeah, just a little more to the left.
Just like that, Matthew and I were sitting at opposite ends of the couch with all 3 of my brothers between us. At the end of our date, if you could even call it that, Joe drove Matthew home alone. I was so mad. They tried to assure me that they were just being big brothers and this was all normal. Yeah, well, tell that to Matthew. He avoided me all day and didn't respond to any of my texts. I didn't see him at lunch that day either. I was crying in the ladies' room when I heard a knock at the door asking if I was okay. It was Ryan. He said, Is there anything I can do? I told him he had done more than enough by ruining my chances with my first date. I was also silent the entire drive home from school. They bought me flowers and chocolates, trying to show me I didn't need a boyfriend since I had such great brothers. I yelled at them, saying how I wasn't going to be their baby sister forever, before locking myself in my room. A few hours later, someone knocked on my door and I walked over to shout at them to go away. When I opened it, it was Matthew. I've been crying all day, and now I look like a mix between a raccoon and the girl from The Ring. I covered my face and told him not to look at me right now. He gently took my hands away and said,
I don't care about all that. Listen, your brothers found me and apologized for ruining the date, and wanted to make it up to us by letting us go on a real date.
My brothers were actually really sweet about it. Joe even helped me pick out an outfit and did my makeup. Matthew's jaw dropped when he came to pick me up. He said, Oh wow, Maggie, you look gorgeous. Of course they came with us to dinner and taught Matthew how to scan the room for any bearded men and shield the lady till she was safely seated at her table. But thankfully, they sat a few tables away. Baby steps. After a year of dating, my brothers really started to trust him more. I would even say they became friends. They constantly made jokes about how he better not grow facial hair now that he was a man, and never to mess with my sister or else. It really did all seem like jokes until the day he came back from summer break. When he showed up at my house after his 2-month family vacation in Europe, he brought a lot more surprises than a postcard. He walked in, sporting a scruffy beard, and I immediately screamed. Ah! Help! Derek! Derek rushed in and started screaming at Matthew. What were you thinking? We told you never to pull stuff like this! Matthew kept insisting that he thought it was just a joke because of a problem I had as a kid. He thought I would have grown out of it by now. That was it! Matthew was lucky my other brothers arrived when they did to hold Derek back. Ryan shouted at him to not come back till he had shaved again. He came back with a clean face a few hours later to apologize and talk in private. My brothers, reluctantly, let us talk alone. Matthew said sorry and explained he thought I would find it attractive, and he didn't mean to scare me. I forgave him, but I could tell my brothers weren't happy with him anymore. After Matthew left, they argued I should break up with him because he knew what he was doing. I kept trying to tell them it was all a misunderstanding, but I could tell something was up between us, and he was different now. He started making a lot of mean jokes about me. One day, I asked him if he wanted to go out to eat, and he said,
Are you sure? You're not going to cry like a baby if the waiter has a mustache?
I said, Why are you acting this way? Come on, be nice. He raised his voice and said, I am being nice, putting up with your stupid condition. It's pretty hard not to have a normal girlfriend and do normal things because you have a freak out wherever we go. I was really upset and went home crying. When my brothers tried to ask me what was wrong, I said I'd just seen a bearded man on my way home and gotten scared. Ryan came to check up on me and said,
Well, Matthew should have at least walked you home.
I told him that Matthew wasn't my keeper. Nobody was. I decided to really push my boundaries one day. I decided I would surprise Matthew by going to the homecoming dance. I knew he was going alone because I avoided places with too many people. I only told Ryan about my plan. He kept begging me to let him come, but I insisted I needed to do this on my own, and he had to promise not to tell the others. He reluctantly agreed, but said I needed to check in every 15 minutes. I promised I would keep in touch as he dropped me off at the dance. I was trying really hard not to find anyone with a beard in the crowd. But then at one point, I caught a glimpse of a guy with some facial hair and I screamed and knocked over the huge punch bowl. All eyes were on me. That's when I found him. Matthew asked in disbelief,
What are you doing here, Maggie?
His jaw was wide open in shock, and his arms were around another girl. The girl leaned closer to him and asked, You know this weirdo, babe? I ran out of the gym and into the hall, furious. Matthew came out and ran over to me. He wasn't trying to apologize, though. He was angry with me. I cried, You're cheating on me! He started rolling his eyes and shouting,
This is all your fault, you know? It's really hard to date you, and I do my best. Seriously, if you break up with me, you won't find anyone who cares about you as much as me.
His face turned white when he heard Derek say,
Oh, buddy. She already has 3 men that care about her more than anything.
All 3 of my brothers emerged from the hallway. This time, no one stopped Derek as he chased him screaming down the hallway. Joe and Ryan rushed over to make sure I was okay. I asked, How did you know I was in trouble? Ryan winked and said,
I didn't hear from you every 15 minutes.
Needless to say, Matthew and I didn't work out. But that didn't stop me from trying to get better. With my brothers by my side to support me, I knew anything was possible. I started going to therapy, and I made a lot of progress. In fact, I persuaded my brothers to let me go to a college out of town. My favorite moment ever was when I came back home and my macho brother Derek met my new boyfriend with tears in his eyes. He has a beard and everything. We all hang out every weekend, and I couldn't be luckier.